A top United Nations human rights official has resigned over the agency's handling of the war in Gaza. In his resignation letter, Craig Mokhiber described Israel's actions as textbook genocide. He spoke to Gabriel Elizondo.
Usually the most difficult part of proving genocide is intent, because there has to be an intention to destroy in whole or in part a particular group. In this case, the intent by Israeli leaders has been so explicitly stated and publicly stated by the Prime Minister, by the President, by senior cabinet ministers, by military leaders, that that is an easy case to make. It's on the public record. But it's important that we start using the language that the law sets out. Just as, in recent terms, every major international human rights organization, Israeli human rights organizations, Palestinian human rights organizations, United Nations human rights mechanisms, independent mechanisms, have found that the situation in Israel and Palestine amounts to the crime of apartheid. The UN needs to get used to addressing these particular violations, just as we have in other situations.
When we asked the Secretary General in his office about genocide, he won't use that term. He says, and previous Secretary Generals have said, that that is for courts to decide. Do you think that the Secretary General should start using the term genocide when it comes to what we're seeing happening in Gaza?
If we can allege that we see war crimes, crimes against humanity, as we have often done, there's no reason to exclude, where we see very strong evidence, the possibility of genocide being committed. And I think you're going to be hearing that term more and more in connection with what we're witnessing in Gaza. But institutions, of course, have to go through the necessary steps before they can make that pronouncement. I, as of today, am an independent citizen, not carrying the institution on my shoulders. And I feel quite confident as a human rights lawyer in saying that what I see unfolding in Gaza and beyond is genocide.
Joe Biden has recently said that after this conflict is over, we need to get back to a two-state solution. In your letter, you say the mantra of a two-state solution has become, and I quote, an open joke in the corridors of the United Nations, where we are sitting right now. Is it really an open joke within the corridors of the United Nations? Explain.
It is, and it has been for quite a long time. If you ask somebody in their official capacity about the two-state solution, they will repeat that phrase to you over and over again as the official position of the United Nations. Indeed, it is the official position of the United States. But nobody who follows these circumstances, either from the political side or from the human rights side, believe, one, that a two-state solution is possible anymore. There's nothing left for a Palestinian state that would be sustainable or just or possible in any respect, and everyone knows that. And secondly, that solution never dealt with the problem of the fundamental human rights of Palestinians. So, for example, it would leave them as second-class citizens without full human rights inside the Green Line, inside what is now Israel proper. And so when people are not talking from official talking points, you hear increasingly about a one-state solution. And what that means is beginning to advocate for the principle of equality, of human rights, instead of these old political taglines. That would mean a state in which you have equal rights for Christians, Muslims, and Jews, based upon human rights and based upon the rule of law. It is what we call for in every other circumstance around the world. And the question is, why is the United Nations not calling for that in Israel-Palestine as well?